Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, ambassadors. Welcome to the FCCT. My name is Panu Wongchum. I'm the FCCT president and the senior correspondent for Reuters. We have a privilege to welcome a very distinguished panels here this evening, just on the final stretch ahead of the February 8 election. Of course, you know, some 53 million eligible Thai voters, some of whom has already cast their ballot last weekend, will get to elect all 500 members of the House of Representatives, who will be then choose who the next Thai Prime Minister is. At the same time, voters will also cast another ballot for constitutional referendum, deciding whether the next parliament should begin drafting the new charter to replace the 2017 constitution. So this is a very pivotal vote in some ways. And of course, for many of you here, we did host an actual political debate on January 15th. And for those of you who missed out, you can watch it on YouTube and see we had a very interesting discussion from 4 leading political parties. But this evening is more about sort of the analysis, the, you know, dissecting all these different issues, dissecting the election here in front of us. So we have basically 4 distinguished panelists. On my left here, Ajahn Thitinan Pongsuthirarak, probably need no introduction, Professor of Political Science, Senior Fellow at the Institute of Security and International Studies at Chulalongkorn University, Ajahn Thitinan. Next to him is Ajahn Pongkhan Dipakdi, the lecturer in international relations at the Faculty of Political Science, Thammasat University. Next to her is Kun Anon Shawalawan, program manager of iLaw, the group that's been campaigning for constitutional referendum. And last but not least, Kun Burin from K-Bank, chief economist of K-Bank, who will be talking to us about sort of the economic prospect of the election. So I'm going to start off by going to Ajahn Thitinan first. What is this election about, sir, and what should we kind of pay attention to? What is this vote about?
Okay, thank you very much, Panu. Greetings, warm greetings. Good evening to excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, friends, journalists. This election is about whether Thailand will get out of its rut, whether Thailand will break out of its instability, the political instability, and economic doldrums that have persisted, that have lingered for more than 2 decades. Growth has slowed below 2%. Politics has kind of decayed and back and forth and very unstable, very topsy-turvy. And Thailand remains divided, and this has gone on for more than 2 decades. So this election, will Thailand break out, or will we see more of the status quo? And my impression, my preliminary kind of conclusion, I'm afraid to say that we will not break out. I hate to say that. I mean, I know it's a bummer, it's a dampener. You're having a meal, and I think that everybody has an election to watch and analyze, and we're getting very excited with great anticipation. This is going to be a great election. In fact, if you want to know where Thailand is going, normally election tells you where the country is going, right? But if you want to look to see where the country is going, you don't look at the election. You look outside the election. You look outside the electoral arena. Only once in the last 26 years has the election been honored. The elected government, the elected party actually took power and governed for a complete term in 2001 to 2005. Since then, we've had all kinds of monkey, funny business about judicial interventions, 2 military coups, all kinds of street protests along the way. So only once in the last 26 years, the election went the way that it should have gone, the way that voters wanted. And this tells you something, there are forces beyond the electoral arena that call the final shots. Now, I have a colleague, another professor, Ajahn Piyabut. He has coined and conceptualized a two-step process into calling shots in Thailand. So once you have election is up to the voters, so you actually get to vote. Does it count? Depends, not really. The second step is that after the election, you have to rely on these agencies. They're supposed to be independent agencies, the Constitutional Court, the Election Commission, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Anti-Money Laundering Office, and, but I don't call them independent agencies because they've not acted independently. All their decisions have gone in one way, and that way has been to dissolve repeatedly winning parties since 2005, 2006. So I call them custodial agencies. Thai politics, Thai elections are in their custody. It depends what they want to do. So you have to vote. Let's see what the results are. And we'll slice it and shape it in the way that we think it ought to be. And we've seen this repeatedly. In fact, we should not have an election this Sunday. I mean, we already had the election in May 2023. It was a very clear election, clear result. Move Forward Party won. And there was all this kind of charade about, forming a pact, and then basically they were disbanded, banned. The Prime Minister should have been Pitha Limcharanat, who was the leader of the party. Most other countries, this would have happened. Okay, so you get a second best outcome, alternative, with Pheu Thai. So Seta should still be Prime Minister today. I think a lot of the ambassadors, think that he did a good job. And from what I've heard from the investors and even academics and so on, he was an upright guy working hard, and he tried. And he was getting some traction, but within a year, he was removed by the Constitutional Court for a cabinet reshuffle. And then Pat Thong Tan. And we know what happened with the leaked audio clip in Hun Sen and all of that. So we really have wasted that last election in 2023. So what is this election about? Will it be wasted again? So it depends on the results. So, that's the first thing you want to know about. You want to keep in mind there are forces beyond the electoral arena that ultimately call the shots. Some of these forces are the custodial agencies. The Election Commission, Constitutional Court especially, they've been kind of quiet, but I don't think there'll be much quiet for that long. We'll soon hear from them. So having said that, the election still matters. There's going to be an election on Sunday, and it was, for political scientists, for journalists, for everyone, it's exciting to see and watch and to observe, and for us to analyze what's the turnout going to be, which party is going to get what, and so on. So it's going to be still kind of exciting. There's going to be an election on Sunday. I don't think it's going to be cancelled. I don't think it's going to be. There could be maybe some incident perhaps before the actual polling on Sunday is getting very close. But it could still happen. I hope not. I give it a 10% chance, but it could happen to sway the momentum in the last minute. So elections still important. The incumbent party, this is a Phum Chai Thai, it's a minority government. It's a minority government led by Phum Chai Thai and Kun Anutin Chanvirakul. It has all the incumbency advantages. It has promoted all these officials within the bureaucracy in its favor. It has a big war chest. It has a Senate kind of under supervision. And it has very powerful backing. And I think it's not lost on the minds of people who pay attention to these things that Kun Anutin is seen as having establishment backing. And I think that's on the one hand. On the other hand, he's got the nationalism, the war with Cambodia. There's a ceasefire, it's holding, but it's still fragile, still combustible. And Kun Anutin, looking back, I think he's very talented. He's a musician. He has a license to fly planes and so on. But if you look at his policy performance, and you can do some homework, and these days we can just Wikipedia in 5 minutes. You can find out how he did the vaccines procurement. How he do with that? We were very slow to get the mRNA. He was the health minister. The cannabis is kind of in limbo. It's not legal, but it's decriminalized. So you can buy it, but it's not legal. The floods in the south, the scams that he seems a bit reluctant to really fully tackle. So on the policy front, I think there's some question marks about his track record. Nevertheless, Phum Jai Thai is a party to beat because of the incumbency advantages that it has, establishment backing, being in power, the huge war chests. I think in some constituencies, the contest is very fierce to get votes, to canvass for votes. So Phum Jai Thai, I think, is still in an election from Phum Jai Thai to lose, which means that they have advantage. They have a built-in advantage for being in power, for all the powerful backing, for the war chest, the bureaucracy. They also have the backing of the custodial agencies, very important. The custodial agencies, they only dissolve one type of parties. And this would be Thai Rak Thai, would have been Palang Prachachon in 2008, Thai Rak Thai in May 2007, Palang Prachachon in December 2008, and then Future Forward in February 2020, Move Forward in August 2024. You'll never see Phum Jai Thai get dissolved. Democrat Party did not get dissolved. So it's only one way. For those reasons, I think BJT has a lead, has an advantage, built-in advantage, and it's sort of the party that kind of had it locked in, and is a party has election, for it to lose. It's election for the BJT to lose. Pheu Thai, Thaksin is down, but the party is not out, which means that this is the first election that Thaksin Shinawatra does not figure in the news, in the headlines on a daily basis. He's not a mover and shaker, he's in jail. And when this happened, when he went to jail, I thought maybe the party will break up. There were some breakaway factions and some defections. And I thought, wow. But then they kind of regrouped. And I think his wife, his former wife and current wife kind of stepped up. His sister also stepped up. And then they transitioned to Julapan and then his nephew, Professor Yochanan, and who found some traction. I think he's a through and through kind of academic, like us, kind of, but he's a Shinawatra, like unlike us. So that's a huge difference. So he's a nephew. He still has a family. It's a bloodline, and he has that family trust. And I think he has been on message, and then he gives them a kind of fresh breath of fresh air. So they have a chance. I think they will not do as well. Phum Jai Thai got 71. This time they will get over 100. Probably double that number from 71, I think, in this election, close to doubling, maybe doubling. Pheu Thai had 141. They'll be a little bit lower than that, probably. They have a war chest, and I think they're stepping up all gears, all levers. And Yochanan has some traction. They have the same old kind of populist measures, gimmicks, but they also have some industrial policies. This gimmick, last time was 10,000 baht digital wallet money. This time is 9 million baht per day to 9 Thais to be millionaires. And that's to stimulate consumption. But this kind of, I'm just wondering, this kind of gimmick, the Pheu Thai base has aged since 2001. It's been 25 years. These are diehards. They remember what Thaksin did for them in the early 2000s, the healthcare, the debt suspension. I mean, they had a sense of upward mobility. They had a sense of personal security. So the people in the Pheu Thai base in the 50s and 60s still will vote for Pheu Thai. But a lot of them have aged. Now, the younger electorate, about 800,000 enter the fray every year. And this time, I think this year is about 2.4 million. So the younger base, I think they got a little bit of younger base. I think they got fired up by Yochanan a little bit. But overall, I think that they will not match what they had in 2023, which was 141, but still probably over 100. Now, People's Party, this is a successor of the Move Forward Party. Always remember that all these parties, these leading parties have been dissolved time and again. And that's where you look for answers in Thailand. It's not about the elections, it's about the dissolutions. So Future Forward 2020, Move Forward 2024, now People's Party, they're polling well. And the polls now are more reliable than ever, but still not, not up to measure, up to standards compared to like advanced industrial and advanced democracy, Japan or Europe and so on. Is still some dubious, questionable sampling, and all the methods, the techniques are still questionable. But overall, I think that become more reliable because it used to be that you can manufacture a poll, but manufactured polls became outliers as more polls were conducted. So now they're kind of gravitating towards a mainstream center. So the polls suggest that People's Party, is ahead of the pack. Now this is a little bit kind of counterfactual or counterintuitive, because in 2023 they really hit their stride, and they had a lot of sparks because they were campaigning to amend the Less Majesté law. It was a structural reform that their agenda, with Pitha as a flamboyant and charismatic cosmopolitan leader. I mean, to this day he still is. But they cannot campaign on royal defamation law amendment anymore. The Constitutional Court, I mean, I don't know if this happens in other countries, that you can actually ban an issue from being a campaign pledge. But this has happened here, that you cannot campaign, no party can campaign on amending Less Majesté law, royal defamation. So they don't have that to really, propose structural reforms. So what do? They have anti-corruption, anti-scams, some equality, Thai Taukan, and modern Thailand, Thai Tan Lok, and have some industrial policies. But what they are geared towards is structural reforms. Apart from not having 112 to campaign with, no Pitha, have Nattapong at first was a lot less charismatic, homegrown, not internationalized like Pitha. But I think that over time he's proved himself to be a solid leader, and certainly within the party it seems like he has a collective acceptance within the party, and he's hitting his stride. People's Party was accused of not being nationalism enough, nationalistic enough, too soft on Cambodia, not warmongering enough, not warlike enough, defending Thai sovereignty in December and late last year. But now at this time, after some weeks, I think they've kind of they've been consistent and on message, to the point that they become kind of unwavering in their stand. And after a while, they have been able to fend off these attacks from different sides. The most visible would have been this person named Chuwit. Chuwit, we would know in the Thai system. Chuwit has been daily just slamming, attacking People's Party. And at first, wow, I think we were taken aback. They're really in big trouble now. Chuwit is after them. But after a bit, they stuck to their guns and they stayed on message. And now Chuwit looks like the bad guy. Looks like he's got an agenda, ulterior motives for attacking People's Party. So they're polling well. I mean, they got 151 last time. That's the benchmark. I mean, I think that they will get at least that. I think that they will get at least that. Maybe exceed that a little bit. I give it 5% that they'll get 180 plus, like a thumping, crushing victory. And the key will be the margin. If they run close to number 2, number 3, that's one scenario. If they come out on top, but if they win by 30 MP margin or 50 MP margin, then it will be difficult to deny them a chance to form a coalition government, and then we will likely see a lot of monkey business. I don't know how they, the thing about it now is like, the monkey business should already have started, but it's all quiet. It's all quiet. So I'm just thinking, what kind of cards do they have up their sleeves? Normally there would be these petitions by these so-called petitioners, but I call them like saboteurs. There are only about 5 of them, like a handful of them. They just keep petitioning about this and that, and the court accepts everything. And then it becomes like buttons they can push, which button, who to ban, which party to dissolve. But they've been kind of low and slow and quiet on this petitioning. So it looks very ominous. It looks very ominous. If People's Party wins and wins convincingly, there's going to be tension. There will be tension. So I think that they will get 151, maybe more, a little bit more, and probably not a lot less. The young base is still committed. I mean, they were angry with the party for voting Anutin, right, to be prime minister, government. But at that time, you don't vote for Anutin, who you can vote for? It's the other guy, is Chai Kasem. Pita was out. I mean, they only had one candidate. So now, I think that the young base is still, if you're going to vote for change and progress in Thailand, which party can you're going to vote for? It's not going to be Phum Chai Thai, I'm sorry. It's not going to be these other parties. It will have to be this. This is a party of change. And they voted last time. They voted in 2019. So that's why I think that they still have the, despite the odds being stacked against them, that looks like the way that it's going to go unless we see a lot of monkey business in the interim and afterwards. So that's the main kind of thrust, and I think the coalition will be like, if you look at 2019, 2023, you get the idea. 2019, a number 2 party becomes the government, and headed by the coup maker, General Prayut, who came in second. He lasted a full term, 4 years. 2023, the winning party was not allowed to form a government, despite having a pact with Pheu Thai. So this time, I don't see how there's talk of a grand compromise that maybe, somehow they will allow People's Party to form a government of some kind if they come out on top, especially with a large margin. I have a hard time imagining that. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that this can happen. I hope that there's some kind of compromise. But if not, we will likely get more status quo. And the status quo will be part of this build-up. The build-up has lasted 20 years. I mean, I'm sorry for all the diplomats because you don't last that long in Thailand. But this is how it works. The incumbency in Myanmar, in Thailand, in countries, what they do is they just keep you on the back foot. They keep you divided. They exhaust you, and they just stay in power. That's what we've seen in Thailand. I don't think that's tenable, but I think maybe we'll need more build-up time. Thank you.
Thank you, Gopachan. Amazing layout of the landscape. I'm going to go to Kun Anon next, since, of course, the constitution is no less important than the election itself. Kun Anon and the ILAW group obviously has been working very hard, featured less in international media, I think, than local media, but it has been a long campaign for them as well, campaigning to change the constitution. So Kun Anon, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today I will discuss, the point that I would like to make is about how we campaign and what are our struggle on the constitutional reform. You may be aware that this is not the first referendum in our country. Actually, this is the third. The first 2 referendum was the referendum that was organized by the military junta to kind of like rubber stamping the constitution that they appoint someone to draft and to have people make a rubber stamp and then use it as the constitution as a supreme law of the land. But this would be different because this is the referendum that are not initiated by the military, not by the junta. But it was it's a result of the long struggle that we do since the 2020 uprising, the demand for political reform, including to draft the new constitution to replace the current one. So let me take you back, as Ajahn Thitinan mentioned, that we are stuck in this vicious crisis, vicious cycle for 20 years. It is back to my year in university in 2006. It's quite long already. It's like actually 20 years, quite long. But my memory is still fresh. That day I went to the campus. My university was blocked because there was a coup d'etat in 2019. Thaksin was coup while he was in the United States to address the United Nations. And after, it is like the fashion that the Thai military junta did every time is that whenever there is a coup, they actually put in place the interim constitution to legitimize their action of coup d'etat and then to prolong their power. So that is like, it's always done, it's like old-fashioned, repeated. So that day I went to the campus was closed due to the military coup. And then a friend of mine who was also the activist, we also start to like discuss among ourselves what to do. What can we do? So what we did is that I actually came out to Siam Paragon, close by here, show the banner, no coup d'etat. That was the first step. And then the movement that formed that day called itself the 19 September against coup d'etat. So what we did is that in 2007, when the military appointed a group of lawmakers to draft the new constitution, we start the campaign. Say no to the draft constitution is say no to coup d'etat. The military junta in 2007, they try to show their generosity and they're sincere toward the democracy reform. So even they appoint someone to draft the constitution, but they are generous enough to put the constitution on the table for the referendum. We also do the campaign to oppose their constitution. At that time, the military did not use the force as much as another group did in 2014, which I will go into detail a little bit later. So we do a lot of campaigning. But lastly, we lost. Because in that referendum, when the people go to vote, there was no clear, they had to go with uncertainty. Why? Because the junta did not say, what if the constitution is not passed the referendum? What is going on? And people are concerned about election because with the junta is in place, economic is bad, the investment from foreign investment is on hold. So what people need is referendum. What people need is a certainty. So there was a time when someone said, I don't know who actually said that originally, but they said that, okay, you just accept it and then you just amend it later, which means go to vote, accept the draft constitution that was made by the lawmaker that appointed by the junta, and then we can amend later. So that time, the referendum was passed at about 14 million to 10 million votes. Again, we go back to normal, we have election, we have a big protest in 2010, we have the crackdown, which one of the crackdown sites is not far from here. And we actually have the incident where 6 people were shot dead in the temple during the May 2010 crackdown. And then we go back to political turmoil. You have the yellow shirt, you have the red shirt, and then you have the PDRC in 2013 and 2014. And again, you have military coup in 2014. And for me, I think it's kind of strange because this time, the constitution that was cancelled, or in Thai we call Sheik or Tier, is actually the constitution that was put in place by another group of military junta. And then when another junta in place, they just tear off the constitution that was drafted by their own senior. Because, you know, most of the military general went to the same school, the cadet. And then this time, the military junta, leading by General Prayut, he learned the lesson from the past that he actually had to consolidate the power. And he put in place the military decree, which issued by himself, saying that no political gathering is of 5 people and above is allowed. So in 2016, when we actually have to go for another constitution referendum, the second one, I would like to imagine your time when you was a student. You have to go to school to give exam. And then your teacher say that, no, you cannot gathering with your friend to do the, like to study together.
Study, yeah.
You have to go for the referendum, but at that time, no political campaign is allowed, which means that you have to go to make political decision without, in the time that all political gathering is not allowed. There are many people that were put in prison, including one, the former MP, Rangsiman Rome. He was the one who came out to do the campaign to oppose the draft constitution by this, that was drafted by this, the NCPO, the military junta in 2014. One of the political activists who was actually in detain currently under Les Majes law, Kun Chatupat or Pai Dowdin, in 2016, he went in his home province in Chayapum to distribute the pamphlet why people should vote no for the draft constitution by the military. He get arrested during that time of campaign, and it was just like a couple days before the referendum. So he was brought to the police station, and he did not request to post himself on bail to the court because he believed he did not do something wrong, and the court should release him with no condition. But the court decided to allow the police to put him in prison during the pre-trial detention period. So Pai or Jatupat, he did not have the chance to cast his referendum vote last time. And also, since he is in detain at this moment, he will not have a chance to cast his vote in this referendum. Apart from that, apart from the use of legal, I should not call legal, the using of the military decree to prosecute people, to prohibit political activism during the referendum, that was part of the contribution. But also, there is another factor. The junta did not say, what if the 2017, the draft constitution, which is a draft at that time, what if it's not passed? What is going to happen? Will we have the election, or which constitution will be in place? There is uncertainty again. So that two factors contribute to the about 16 million against 10 million votes. So we have the 2017 constitution in place. So that are the two struggles for us, for the people on the constitutional issue. After the 2017 constitution is in place, there is a lot of problem as we have identified. So first is the 200 special batch of Senate who have the right to vote the MP along with the, who have the right to vote Prime Minister along with the member of the House that we elect. So these 250 Senate are actually appointed by General Prayut. And then General Prayut also ran as the Prime Minister candidate for Palang Pracharat Party in the 2019 election. So what will this Senate vote for? Even Senate say that, okay, they are the person of intelligence, they can decide by themselves independently. But as a matter of fact, 249 Senate vote in favor of Prayut. So that was one of the problems. This 250 Senate, which the interim provision in the 2014 or into the 2017 constitution.
17.
Sorry, I have to switch the year between the Buddhist era and the Christian era. So that was the contribution to why Prayut continued his second term as a normal Prime Minister under the 2017 constitution. That's not just the single problem of the 2017 constitution. Next, this constitution tried, the 2017, bring back the power from the people, in the sense that if you go back to the 1997 constitution, Thai people have the right to vote a Senate, 100%. And then the coup d'etat in 2006 led to the 2007 constitution. Under that constitution, we have the Kon La Khรึ่ng, half and half scheme. 76 Senate from the people's election, another 74 from some sort of selection. So it's like from 100 to Kon La Khรึ่ng, half and half. And then come this 2017 constitution. We have a very complicated Senate selection system where anyone who eligible, like 40 years and above, you go with 2,000 baht in your hand, and then you can apply to be candidate. And all the candidates are selecting among themselves. And then we have the current batch of Senate. Even they are not come from election, but they actually have a lot of power, including the power I could say like the power to veto the amendment of constitution. Because in order to amend the constitution, you require that not only the majority vote in both houses, but it also requires that at least 1/3 of the Senate, 67, at least 67 from 200 need to vote in favor. Otherwise, even you have the landslide in the lower house, but if you have just like, if you cannot reach the 67 Senate vote in favor, those amendments will be crushed. And we have seen already that there are many proposals made by the House to amend the Constitution. I think altogether is like 26 that amend in the section, not the whole. And there's only one amendment that passed by the Senate. That was the change of ballot system from 1 ballot to 2 ballot. But the rest of the proposal has been crushed. Not only on the matter of the political structure, but also some of the matter that related, some amendment that relate to the right and liberty of the people, or the proposal to amend by the Phum Jai Thai Party on the universal income scheme for the people. That was also rejected by the Senate. So Senate is one of the big problem, and also what we call the independent bodies, which Ajahn Titinan already mentioned, the Constitutional Court, Election Commission, and all of this. Last but not least, the 2017 Constitution also take back our power to gathering the petition to propose for the revocation of people who hold a position in the government or in the independent body. I can imagine, like, with the mistake that happened during the advance election last week, if we still have the 2017 Constitution in place, maybe someone will already start do the campaign, gather the petition to revoke the Election Commission Board. But unfortunately, we cannot do it anymore because this provision has been taken out of the current Constitution. So with all this sample of problem, and another problem that's quite crucial is that the candidate, the prime minister candidate system is also the newly introduced by this constitution. Earlier, start from 1997 and 2007 constitution, the constitution did not require anything. It's just simple that if you must be MP, and you are voted by the member, any member of the house can become prime minister. So that give us more option. But for this prime minister candidate system, the political party can propose the candidate only the time of election. And then we see just in the recent that 2 prime minister candidate of Pheu Thai was cut off. And then Prachachon Party doesn't have the candidate because they did not run for election under the name of the Prachachon Party. So this system is a potential to lead to the political deadlock. And we have seen that when it might be the factor that make the Prachachon Party decide to vote for Anutin, which personally I disagree with that decision. So because of all these problems, people start to do a campaign to propose for not the amendment, but to the redraft of the whole constitution. In 2020, when we had the uprising, the student movement, and later the people movement, the Rasadon movement, one of the demands that was raised by the movement is to have the new constitution. And not just the new constitution, but this constitution must be drafted by the people that we elect by ourselves, not just someone appointed. So because of this, civil society launched the big campaign to gather the 50,000 signature, the petition of the Thai voter to propose for the constitution amendment to draft the new one. We successfully gathering about 100,000, over 100,000 signature to the petition. we submit that to the parliament, and that was actually the first time that a constitution that was proposed by the people has been tabled and discussed in the parliament. Unfortunately, when the debate over the draft was happened, it was the time that was during the pandemic, and General Prayut, who was the prime minister at that time, declared state of emergency nationwide. And of course, not the political gathering, but the gathering that likely led to the spread of the COVID is all prohibited. So with that special power in place, when we went to the parliament, we was welcomed by barricade and by the tear gas. Why during the debate is heat, and some of the Senate are pointing as our organization as the influenced by the foreigner to interfere in Thai politics to do this campaign. So at the end, our draft was not passed. We have just about like 5 or 6 Senate vote in favor, and the rest are the MP from the opposition party at that time. So after that, we have another campaign in 2023 when we have the election. After the chaotic of the government forming, when Pheu Thai decide to shake the hand with Phum Chai Thai, and they have issued the statement about what will be the direction when they are going to form the government. One of the point in the statement is that they will consider the amendment of constitution as an urgent matter, and in the first cabinet meeting, they will adopt the referendum question to open the process to draft the constitution. So we, at that time, we have to work around the clock to make sure that we can gather a petition from the people to propose the referendum question. And our referendum question is quite simple. Do you agree to have the new constitution draft? And that constitution must draft by the elected constitutional drafter committee. So that's quite simple. And within just a few days, I will not go into detail, but within just 3 or 4 days, we managed to get over 200,000 signatures to the petition, not online, on paper. So you imagine that. So we successfully gathering the petition. We proposed that referendum to the cabinet, but yet nothing happened. And since 2023, we have 3 prime ministers, and nothing actually has been done. But I believe because of our struggle, lastly, the cabinet, the parliament has to pass on to the cabinet to have this referendum in place, and which we will have to go to vote on this coming Sunday. Start from New Year's, we launched the big campaign. We have to wear the green T-shirt with our message campaign to redraft the new constitution. Many people joining us in the campaign. Many restaurants, cafes, they help us distribute the pamphlet why we should go to vote yes for this referendum. Many people volunteer to go to the market like the MP candidate did during this time. They went to the market. They're willing to face any people, whether they agree with us or disagree with us, to distribute the pamphlet, to talk, and to ask them to go to vote, and go to vote yes for the draft constitution. This is what we have been doing around the clock since day one of this year. And yesterday we have the big rally, and we have the big event at the BACC. So I heard what Ajahn Thitinan have said, that, it's less likely that things going to change. Even we have election, but we people, we never been counted. I quite agree with that in some sense. But on the other hand, I have seen how the people react to the election commission. They are angry, and they are willing to do something. And I hope that on Sunday, Even we have many factors that we cannot control. But I hope that if people turn out in the big number and vote in favor for the new draft constitution, to begin the process to draft the new constitution in the big number, or you could say like landslide, I believe that we still have the window of opportunity, and I would like to stop for this round. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Yunanon, highlighting the long struggle for the People Constitution. I'm going to go next to Ajahn Pong Kwan because, taking it back a bit to the candidates and the parties, Ajahn Pong Kwan, of course, is an expert in foreign policy and geopolitics, among other things. So I want her to talk to you about this issue. And just a caveat, at Thammasat, Ajahn Pong Kwan had a chance to talk to basically all the different political parties about foreign policy, about geopolitics, so you would know. Please.
Thank you so much, Kun Panu, and thank you for having me here as well. It's my honor to be here. Last time I was here is like 10 years ago, so I'm still shaking a little bit. It's my first public speaking after a while. So for this panel, I think I only have 2 points, which I believe that could stem some conversation after this. And my 2 points are, first, my surprise with this election, and second is my concern with this election, which of course Ajahn Titinan and Kun Anon have already talked about domestic concerns, so my concern is more about the position in the world. So let's start with my surprise. Is actually that the Cambodian conflict is not so much at stake in this election, right? Before the election, I was asked to write about the Thai and Cambodian conflict and how that's really related to the current election and how this could actually, change the direction of the voters, right? And I was also asked by think tanks and academic institutes to pay attention to this issue and write it down when there's something that flares up during the election. Of course, I didn't write anything because it was really hard for me to force to write something that people actually didn't discuss so much in this election. So that was actually my first surprise, that I thought it could have been a bigger issue in this election. It was not. There definitely alternative explanations to this. First it could be that Thai people forget easily, and things that are not really covered on the headlines or the front page of news tend to be neglected by the voters, right? So that would be, the easy explanation. I think the alternative explanation to this is, I think the Cambodian and Thai conflict have already shifted the stance of most political parties, right? So in a sense, the nationalist sentiment or Phumchai Thai does not really own the nationalist policy when it comes to Cambodian-Thai conflict anymore, right? Just for example, how the Thai and Cambodian conflict have shifted the policy stance of different political parties, right? So of course, if you look at Phumchai Thai definitely proposed to build a wall. So that's really clear nationalist policy that comes from, of course, a political party that tries to advocate on this issue even before the election, right? If you look at Pheu Thai, so Pheu Thai does not really have a clear policy when it comes to the Thai-Cambodian conflict. But if you looked at the political stance, right, going to the website, you're gonna see that Pheu Thai is to propose a policy with regards to scammers and drugs, which definitely, to some certain extent, respond to the issues of the Cambodian and Thai conflicts, right? So scammers are really priority of many countries, and scammers, of course, a lot of political parties pay attention to that already, but it became a priority and central issue following the conflict with Cambodia, when analysts start to talk about the scammer center along the border as a problem for Thai people, right? And lastly, I think if you look at even People's Party policy on the neighboring country, right, we would actually expect People's Party to be very left on this issue, more liberal in terms of approaching the Thai-Cambodian conflict. What we see so far is People's Party actually proposed, of course, policy related to scammers. But if you look at their website, there's a policy that's called Encircling Cambodia by the World, right? Lok Lom Kampucha. What does this mean? It means Thailand is trying to pursue building alliance with other countries, partners with other countries, to stop them from sending, ammunition and weapons to Cambodia, right? So when you compare People's Party policy platform when it comes to foreign policy issues this time from last time, you can see clearly a shift from a more liberal idea, proposed, human rights issues in ASEAN and things like that. And this time it's shifting more towards a nationalist, more conservative policy when it comes to neighboring countries, right? So in that sense, you can see that the Cambodian and Thai issue, the conflict has already shifted the focus of a lot of political parties to a more conservative stance, and therefore the differentiation among them is more like a question of perception than a question of policy, right? So if every party is running on pretty much the same policy platform, how does this election produces some sort of stake for this Cambodian and Thai conflict then? So I think it's still going to shape somewhat the direction, right? There are some parties, especially on the issue of border closure and opening a border, right? So party that's really clear that we keep border closed is definitely Phumchai Thai, right? Pheu Thai probably gonna keep it open, right? Not very clear on the website, but some, from some of the political debates so far, Pheu Thai have been talking about, opening the border, but also very less clear about how gonna be assertive when there's a clash happening from the Cambodian side. People's Party, not very clear, but very likely that it's probably going to pursue more liberal policy and opening of trade and things like that, right? So to some certain extent, even though the political policy stance of these political parties shifting towards conservative, but on a smaller issues like question of border and things like that, you might actually see the differentiation among political parties. But that also depends, right? And assuming that we actually don't know the real causes of this conflict, and I don't think anybody actually know the real causes of this conflict so far. Everything has been speculation, right? So, but I think, so even with these small differentiation among political parties, if the conflict flares up again, right, and to some certain extent, we know that the conflict has been very political, right? And it's actually giving advantage to some certain political spectrum more than the other. If the conflict flares up again after the election, that might actually change the dynamic of, the government coalition and things like that, right? And the nationalist sentiment in Thailand is going to come back. One thing that I want to be clear is that the sentiment or this, hatred towards Cambodia is going to stay for at least 10 to 20 years. It's not going to go away because tapped on national, the historical memory of Thai people. It's not going to go away very easily. And of course, it's going to be an obstruction to any cooperation that could happen in ASEAN. So this is definitely a more long-term thing. So that's my surprise, right? On the other hand, I also have my concern. And my concern is related to geopolitics. Right? And we actually know that the world is facing changing geopolitical landscape. You can actually argue that countries' major power has been less value-based and more interest-based, right? So this is something that Thailand hasn't very been clear about. So when it comes to issues of foreign policy and geopolitics, a lot of politicians across political parties have talked about it in terms of economic linkage. How Thailand can actually use our advantage in terms of economy to plug into different, supply chains, right? So we could actually be also part of Chinese supply chain, also Western supply chain. While that is true to some certain extent, we actually neglect the fact that there's also a tendency to decouple from each other. and that is actually related to geopolitics, right? We haven't been really clear on, how are we going to formulate policy when it comes to two major powers fighting or competing with each other, right? Of course, Minister Sihasak has talked about being middle power. And of course, we also see the tendency of a lot of countries in the world, middle power, trying to form some sort of concert of middle power, trying to be players in the world that, make the rule-based order sustaining, right? We're not really clear whether Thailand wants to do that. Minister Sihasak talked about that when he first became the Minister of Foreign Affairs. That started to fade away as the tension with Cambodia flares up, right? And of course, that impacts our legitimacy to talk about rule-based order. So, we're not very clear about our stance. We're not really sure which direction we're gonna turn to. And even if we wanna do something, right, or step up to be a middle power, there's also a question of whether we're still legitimate for doing that, given what we've done in the conflict with Cambodia, right? And I just want to conclude one last point, and I think this is my biggest concern is that given the geopolitical tension, because Thailand hasn't figured out our stance yet, and we're still thinking about bamboo diplomacy, which is obviously outdated, is if there are incidents happening in the world, I think we risk being reactive. And we're gonna be very responding to issue by issue, rather knowing where we are and what our position is. And I think we haven't discussed about this enough in the current debate. There is actually currently ongoing debate right now at the Standard, right? Which I think I'm gonna go back and listen to it. But I think it's very concerning, given that the world is moving towards another direction. It's not the world of globalization as we know, that we could actually plug into different supply chains and both sides anymore. And I think this is something that politicians have to think about. So those are my two main points, I think, which I hope could actually encourage some debate and discussion that follow. But I do have some surprise and my concern with this election. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chan Pongkwan. Very interesting observation. Very interesting observation, given that this is a very rare election where we have actual, foreign affair experts running, as the front runners in several parties. I'm going to go to Kun Burin now. I'm sorry that I kept you waiting. Of course, your topic is actually the most important, arguably, the economics. I mean, look, Thailand has been, as we've seen in recent Financial Times article, the sick man of Asia. And that was actually Kun Burin's comment, actually, to the FT. What are at stake here? What is the state of play? What are at stake? And what do the next government? What do they have to do to get us out of this?
Okay, thank you so much, Kun Panu. Yeah, so it was me. I gave an interview to the FT, but I didn't want them to put it on the headline. I just said Thailand went from being Teflon Thailand to now the sick man of Asia, but she just put it, how Thailand became the sick man of Asia. But, I think we've seen, Thailand being very resilient, even 10 years ago, we were known as Teflon Thailand. Nothing sticks. Political uprising, red shirts, yellow shirts, burning of the city. The economy kept chugging along. We were growing, 3-4%. But after COVID, we've not really gone back there. And our potential growth is perhaps, the keyword is potential. It's about 2.4, 2.5. So just to get there, everything has to be really optimized. So now the last two prime ministers ago, he said that our aim was to get our GDP back to 5%. So that would have been double the potential GDP. So now we've seen the latest campaign that said, we want to get to 3 to 3.5. A bit more realistic, but quite hard to do given, if we keep on this direction, okay? So one thing that we can say for sure, that Thai people want change. I think that is unanimous. Everyone wants change. But how much of a change? Okay? I think we have two camps. I think there are camps, one camp who thinks that the engine just needs fine-tuning. Okay? Perhaps new drivers, new engineers, but the engine is fine. You know, you just didn't get the right people running it. The other camp is the engine is broken. You know, we really are the sick man of Asia. Then you have another thing that, you know, really want to not reform, but perhaps revolt, reset, you know, whatever you may call it. But I have another word which is probably even worse than being the sick man of Thailand. I've been talking to investment bankers in Singapore and London. Thailand is becoming the forgotten man of Asia. You know, they don't have economists covering Thailand. You know, we are just part of ASEAN. They don't have dedicated fund manager looking at Thai equities. You know, like when they look at Thailand, they think that, you know, the fraudulent activities, lots of carrots, not really stick. You know, so people get away with murder, so to speak, in the capital market. So I think that's one thing that we need to see changing going forward. Another thing that we see, I think a lot of you are from England, we have a trend of population decline. So we've seen closing down of Thai schools. But instead, what we also have backing that trend is the opening up of English boarding schools. You know, Wickham Abbey has just opened, you know, Charterhouse in Phuket. I think Eton wants to come in. So this is bucking the trend. So there are two things. I think two things we can probably infer from that. The quality of education here needs a lot of improvement. And another thing is a lot of wealth gap, inequality of wealth. So people who can afford it, they would buy their children the future. I used to joke among my friends, I don't know if I should speak it here, but I will anyway. I said that, you know, just to fix this education problem, we need to have the MPs or the cabinet send their kids to local school. They can't send them to private school or international schools. You know, same thing with public transport. I borrowed this idea from Yes Minister, you know, where the minister had to take his own, you know, transport, public transport. He cannot use his own, you know, chauffeur-driven car, and that would fix the problem. So I think that's what we need to do for the next election. You know, another thing that we have the structural problem in Thailand. You look at the workforce. The workforce in Thailand, about 40 million people. 30% is in farming, okay? Not the most productive. Another 10% is in civil service, also not very productive. So we have about 40% in Thailand, you know, not really in a productive society. So how do we, you know, improve efficiency, improve productivity? So we need to tackle, or we need to reform the farming sector. But we know because of this political reason, they want to keep, you know, subsidizing the farming sector. So I think we need to let the market dictate where we would go. I mean, that might sound a bit harsh, but I think we need more level playing field. We need more competition. You know, I might even say some positive thing about Trump is, you know, because of this trade agreement that we have to deal with, I think we need to open up a lot of sectors that have been closed off from competition. And one of that is the agricultural market. So that might be one of the few things I can be quite positive about this tariff and whatever we've seen, geopolitical conflicts that we see. Another thing that is quite alarming is all these political parties, you know, whatever you name it, the main political parties, all their, I don't want to say all their, but a lot of their campaigns are about giving handouts. You know, we have, you know, co-payment, half-half. Another party is half-half plus. Another party is half-half Pro Max. Sounds a bit like iPhone. But, you know, all of these parties, you know, they don't think about fiscal sustainability. Currently, our debt to GDP is 67%. If we get to 70%, even before that, I think we will get downgraded. I just, you know, someone sent me today, Moody's just downgraded Indonesia. So I think Thailand, if we don't if we're not careful, I think our sovereign rating would probably be downgraded sooner or later. So I think the task at hand for the new government, I think they need to remove a lot of distortion. I've been talking to a lot of investors who want to come into Thailand. One big sticking point is high electricity cost. It's much higher than other places. And I like to be like Turkey. We want to advertise that we've got more than 300 days of sunshine. But our uptake of solar power is quite minimal. So we need to liberalize our solar market, electricity market. We need to lower our electricity costs to become more competitive. 20 years ago, we were far ahead of our competitors in the region in terms of attracting FDI. Now we are sort of dead last, comparing amongst the top 5 countries in the ASEAN. So we are beginning to look like being forgotten, being less attractive. So how do we become more attractive? We need to create more level playing field. We need to be a bit more competitive in electricity prices. We also need less interference by the government. I think the state has been too big, running airline, running banks, running monopoly in the electricity market. Another thing is, we have weak demand now in the property market. I think if you are here and you want to buy property, probably is a buyer's market. But we need more demand from abroad. Thai household debt is high, close to 90% of GDP. And the majority of that debt is not in mortgage, it's not in housing. It's more like personal loan, credit card, which is high interest and probably not very productive. So we need more demand. So we need to change the rules. So as you guys are foreigners, I think we need to treat white-collar workers or expats. We should treat them like guests, not pests. I think our government, I don't know, I think they're quite fearful of perhaps what the British and the French did 50 years ago. I think that still scar their mind. So they don't want white-collar people in the much-needed sector to stay, and they don't want you guys to buy land either. I'm just gonna risk my neck out there and probably be called a traitor. But I think we should allow some sort of land ownership for foreigners. I think that will boost the demand in the property sector. And once we get productive white-collar expats to come here, and I think that will generate jobs. That will input dynamism into the economy. We need a new engine. And the new engine will not come from the Thai people and the Thai money alone. We need skilled labor force. We need new injection of capital. Our education level has been quite poor. The showing has been quite poor. So if we're serious about reforming the education, we will not see the result for the next, until the next 20 years. So we need some input. We need to be like Singapore. We need to compete on skilled labor like Singapore. We need to lower our taxes. We need to be like Dubai, just lower taxes. Thai people don't pay taxes anyway, so we might as well 4 million people, myself included, but generally, they don't pay taxes as much as they should. So a lot of, so if we can lower the taxes, we can bring in the talent, and then the tax revenue will increase as well. So it's like killing 3-4 birds in one stone. But I don't know why the government has not really done it. We can lower taxes, the top rate from 35%, perhaps down to a more competitive level like Singapore, maybe 17 or 20%. And I'm sure a lot of people who are already bored of Singapore, that like to move here, and so that's another thing. We also want to create a more level playing field. A lot of times when I hear business discussion groups, they all talk about what are the big rock that we need to move, and all of it comes down to government regulation. So we have been talking about regulatory guillotine for a long time, but we have not really sharpened the blade. So it seems like the more we talk about it, the more laws and regulation we've created. So I think we've got over 200,000 laws and regulations, and that's just mind-boggling. So we need to streamline all these, and we need to be more business-friendly, okay? We need to be more like Singapore. Singapore allow people to do, get license easily, but if they do something wrong, they will come, the government will come after them. They get to pay penalty, go to jail. But in Thailand, we just created more laws and regulations just to prevent a few bad apples. So I think we need to have a change of mindset. So I think I will stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamboon. Some very interesting ideas that, we do hear echoes of them sometimes from political players, but never really get done, Before we go to the questions, do each of you want to have a short word in terms of any further ideas that you want to bring up before we go to the question? I see that you've been writing a lot, Ajahn. Just a quick sort of 1 minute each, maybe.
Before we get to Q&A, I think people will start to drift, and it's getting late. I want to, as I look out into this room, here we are. We have all kinds of stakeholders here. People who live here who are not Thai, but people who are Thai who live here, of course. People come and go. We all have a stake in Thailand, and I want to say that forgotten was the key word. Constitutional manipulation, 1997, 2007, 2017. Thailand at the, this is the lowest point internationally. Thailand is internationally adrift, lacking a compass. I want to just bring up a little sobering note that this is election on Sunday. It's the number 7 in the 21st century. There has been a systematic weakening of democratic institutions in Thailand. So I think that I would like to say that we have to be very clear-eyed about what's at stake. There are forces at play that have kept Thailand diminished, and until something happens, something changes, we can all come and go, we can have all kinds of seminars, but we really have to confront what's at stake here, why Thailand has been like this, why it's been regressing. We're seeing signs of economic stagnation, political decay, and we know why. And I think that we should not be fooled. And I think that all the things that we want to see, maybe more action is needed. And I'm hoping that you're right about the public anger that could come to the fore. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll go to the question now. Sebastian.
Good evening. Thank you for the presentation. I'm Sebastian Berger from AFP. This question is for Ajahn Thitinan. Thank you for your very clear presentation. If the forces outside the electoral arena prevail once again, do you expect there to be street protests? On what sort of scale? And what would you expect the response of the authorities' powers to be?
Oh, maybe we take a few. Peter, you want to? So there's a mic there. For those of you who want to ask questions, please go line up, identify yourself, and direct your question to a panelist. And please, no statement, just questions. Peter.
Sure. Peter Jansen, Business Times of Singapore. I'll address this a question to Kun Burin. I'm very happy to see you again at the FCCT. I think you spelt out very clearly what everybody is, at least in the business community, is hoping for post-election. How optimistic are you, Kun Burin, that any of these parties that may win or may not win are going to be able to push through a significant reform agenda that would accomplish some of the objectives you've mentioned, regulatory guillotine, whatever. I mean, sorry for me to drag on. I mean, Phum Chai Thai seems to have some good technocrats there. People's Party is very reform-oriented, but not really connected with the bureaucracy and lacks experience. So how optimistic are you that this election will actually generate some real reform in the Thai economy? Thanks.
Shall we take those two first, and then we go to the next? Ajahn, on the protests?
Yes,
and
from the AFP correspondent. In 2023, when this, kind of farce with the pact between the Move Forward and Pheu Thai held, and they had a MOU. And remember also that Move Forward and Pheu Thai combined for 2/3 of the electorate. They won 2/3 of the electorate on the party list. Their main policy plank was less majestic reform, both of them. And I think that that's why I'm thinking, we cannot campaign on that issue anymore because of the Constitutional Court ruling. But I'm thinking if people voted back then, some of them might still vote that way this time. 2023, when it took a while, by the way, some months, they didn't just dissolve, Move Forward like that. So that was very kind of clever, just wear them out, initially just prevent Pita from becoming prime minister because of the appointed Senate, and then just wear him down, and then Pheu Thai then had a excuse, a justification, pretext to split, to bolt away, and then form a government with Phumjai Thai, which we could see again. No anger, no public anger and social unrest when Move Forward was again, like Future Forward, dissolved. Future Forward won 6.3 million votes in 2019. In 2020, February, I think it was like February 22nd, when it was dissolved, there were protests on the day, and it continued for the year. So you have to wonder what happened in 2023, in 2024. How come when Move Forward was dissolved, it was quiet, muted? So I'm thinking that people were a lot of the base, and when you dissolve a party, there's a blatant disenfranchisement of voters. People's votes were robbed, and this should not go unnoticed. So no reaction, kind of muted, right? So what happens if they have this kind of manipulation, distortion, subversion again? I'm thinking this time, what Kun Anon said, not just from the early voting, I'm just thinking, I don't know, sometimes, I wake up some days, I think there'll be no change in Thailand. It's such a livable country, a likable country. Nobody will starve here. It's so well endowed. It's abundant. People are friendly, as you know. People are very hospitable. And they can just put up. It's just very high tolerance in this country. We look at the political history of Thailand. There was no way. Even October 1973, big protests, but it was not really kind of a broad base. 1976, 1992, 2020, kind of Bangkok-based, urban, 1992 included. So I'm thinking, what are my fellow countrymen? I get up, I know how I feel, but they really put up. So they could put up again, right? They could put up again, keep putting up. And putting up, by the way, there's a legal repression in place to also engender fear. So don't forget that there's a very high cost of not putting up. We have over 60 young protesters back from 2020, 2021 in jail today, in jail no bail today, and including Kun Anon Nampa, right? So maybe they will put up. There's also legal repression. There's also like deep entrenched co-optation. I see all kinds of people around me being co-opted. So it means that Thailand is going in the wrong direction, right? The boat is floundering, is kind of losing its way. But do you rock the boat? The elites, they don't rock the boat. They don't rock the boat. At the end of the day, a lot of people that you would meet, they don't rock the boat. But I'm thinking where the boat rocking is going to come from. But it could be that after so much distortion, manipulation, subversion, people will kind of learn that, hey, there's another one. What else can they come up with now? All the party dissolutions, all these bans, maybe ban for life, and then, so maybe people think, enough. So Thai people also have a point about, being fed up enough too. If you see when they get really angry, they can be very angry. But but the build-up can be very long. So I don't know. This time, I'm thinking that there'll be some unrest if you have the same kind of monkey business. And what kind of a contrivance that you can come up with that is not a pattern of the past. What could be a new concoction now?
Thank you. Kun Burin, you want to answer? How optimistic are you?
All right. Thank you, Peter Jackson. He's asking if an economist like myself is optimistic. As a profession, I cannot be optimistic because I'm a dismal scientist. But I just want to answer that I'm actually less pessimistic than before, because I think that the new government legitimacy will be defined by how they perform on the economy. So I think some changes will come. It doesn't matter which party will run, but if they don't deliver on their promises on the economic front, they will not be in power for long. So I think I'm less pessimistic, if that's the answer.
Great. Marwan?
Yeah, Marwan Mark of Nikkei Asia. Just two questions. Ajahn Jay, if you remember, before the 23 elections, there was an infamous meeting in Malaysia and Langkawi. As of this point in time, there doesn't seem to be an indication towards that. The nod that Prime Minister Anutin received before the elections gives the impression that the establishment almost has the next government in its bag. Do you think, given your scenario that if there's monkey business, there is going to be a protest, do you think that's a likely scenario, given that we don't see any build-up because the establishment seems confident, unlike in 2023 when they had existential fear that the possible then move forward party would be a threat to the establishment. And just to Burin, the economy in this country is essentially an oligarchy, and the oligarchs don't seem to be interested in reforming. So unless there is no attempt by those at the top, the 1% or the 0.1% to change, how do you expect the government to follow suit? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we go to the answer, Ambassador, you want to ask your question?
Thank you. A very brief comment and an even shorter question. The brief comment is I was very happy to hear Kun Burin, one of the most important activities that the embassies engage in is promotion of trade and investment. So Mexico is the #1 producer of avocados, and we've been trying to get avocado exports to Thailand for a good decade or so, and have not been able to. So hopefully we'll get them in the near future, and we'll all benefit from that. The question has to do with international observers. Mexico, like many other countries, is welcoming to Thailand international observers that are going to be present on Sunday. What do you want these observers to take away with them back to their countries? And what do you want these observers to bring to these elections? Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. So, Kun Burin or Ajahn? Kun Burin, you want to go first, maybe?
Yeah, I did not hear that properly, but something about oligarchs. But so I could just probably guess the question. But it's quite difficult. That's why we probably need a crisis. So for people to get moving, I think Thai people are quite chilled and quite relaxed. But until you start honking at them when you're driving, that's one thing. Another thing is when the economy hit the bump, then you need a crisis like we faced in 1997. Then some reforms could happen. So if I'm knock on wood, not hoping for a crisis, but if we do run into a crisis, let's hope that we will not waste this crisis to do structural reform. Sorry, something about avocado. That's just a comment, right? Yeah, I think lots of Thai people would welcome your avocados. Thank you.
Ajahn Jay? Establishment.
Young people already have been saying something for the last decade. Economic stagnation, Thai economy is sliding down the value chains. We're relying on labor-driven hospitality, tourism. Tourism is 1/5 of the economy. So it just takes time. And it might have to take a little bit more time when people really feel the squeeze. And then they turn around and say, we've had enough. I'm just thinking that maybe it takes more time. It's been over a decade. Maybe it takes a little bit more time, but maybe not. But maybe it'll come sooner than I think. The deal that, before 2023, the election was unexpected. It was not supposed to happen that way. Move forward was not supposed to win. And they had a big surge in the last 2 weeks. And then I think Pita, they had this big rally, and then when they said the slogan, "Mi lung mai mi rao," that really caught on fire. You have the generals, the uncles, no us. You want to have us, no uncles. And so that really led them to amazing kind of election victory, which came to naught. This time, there's no a deal like that. I mean, the deal back then was supposed to be a Thaksin deal, Marwan, in Langkawi, and there are photos to show it, that they had some kind of understanding, some kind of agreement. But the results went the other way, which meant that it took them time to get rid of the winner and get the Pheu Thai to be in government. But then, they're not even happy with that. Sethar they got rid of. Pat Tong Tan they got rid of for a good reason. So I'm thinking, the establishment that we talk about monolithically is not monolithic. There are different sides to it, different factions to it. And the one side that Thaksin spoke with, agreed to, was not the one that got rid of Sethar and Pat Tong Tan. So now, I think that before the election, remember if you go back to about December, when the election was called, there was not a threat of a People's Party runaway victory. They were on the back foot. They were on the back foot in Cambodia, on nationalism. They kept wanting to change the constitution. They voted Anutin in power and everything. So it looked like they were under attack on all fronts. It looked like they could have come up with maybe even fewer than 100, people were saying. But because they maintained their stance, their stand, and over time they were able to kind of regroup and regain their momentum, their ground, and now you see that they, in the last stretch now, they have the momentum. So now I think that the establishment, Marwan, is probably thinking, they should have thought of this. So now suddenly we might see something. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something very odd coming up very soon. On the other hand, people think that maybe they'll settle for, I mentioned 2.5 step. There's a 0.5 step that I didn't mention. So first step is you have election. You get to vote. The results, that's different. That's step 2. The results then are sliced and shaped, I mentioned. And then there's 0.5. The 2.5, the 0.5 is that if the results are overwhelming, then you let them take power and then you get rid of them after they take power. And this happened with the Samak government, the Yingluck government. It could happen this time if there's a victory, a clear victory margin by People's Party. So I don't think there's a deal. The deal that you should be looking at is Kun Anutin's confidence. If you look at his movements, you have to track the Thai, social media, and just look at his movements. Look at the photos. 2 days ago, what did he do? He signed some pledge. Look at what the pledge was. You look at who he's with. Look at his wife going to a charity. Who did she go with? That is his backing. And that's why he's banking on nationalism and royalism, and that's why he looks very chill, because he thinks he'll come back in power.
Anyone want to comment on the observation issue? I mean, you don't even have to just talk about the constitution. You can talk about the broad sense, I guess.
I think maybe just one point is the reaction of the people. Last time when we have on the election day, I actually enjoy going on the field to observe in the polling station, but me and my colleagues, we were locked at the office because we have to take phone call, complaint, and everything at all time. And it turned out that people are quite active. People are quite active. And they actually do something beyond your imagination. Like when the light went off, they actually try to torch the light and to make sure that all the votes are counted according to the ballot. And that might be both takeaway and what you should observe. And that the reaction of the people at the polling station could also give you an idea of how the voting is going to be. If you vote for the establishment, I don't think it is less likely that you will be proactive to kind of like prevent your ballot, like you protect something that you hold as a dear. If this time we see like the mistake at the polling station and people like kind of like they're showing neglect and all things, then you could see like the election results like in the way that, okay, we are going back to be the same business as usual. But if you see how anger or how active people in the polling station, that can also show you something else. And that could be some, you know, like a little light in the dark room, but it's still, there's a light and opportunity. That's what I could say. Yeah.
Can I add on that?
Sure.
So I think one thing is, I don't know where you plan to observe, and I would actually encourage you to go outside of Bangkok as well, and to areas that are not really like, you know, the city area in other provinces, because I think you will see different dynamics. And if you get to talk to voters or even observe what they actually see politics, you might get a different sense of how they understand the election than people in Bangkok, right? And this is no moral judgment, but I think as a political scientist, I went on the field and I do learn a lot from how the network works on the ground, right? And that probably, you know, I think make us less judgmental and less subjective about how it should be, but try and understand how it actually works on the ground. So I really advocate for, you know, not just staying in Bangkok, but also going to rural area and try to see it as well.
Thank you.
May I add just with one? Or maybe you could locate like the province that have the strong political dynasty that might show you, you know, like reality on the ground. Yeah.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you very much. Graham Lacourt from latterly the Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce in England. Last 2 weeks ago, we hosted some titans of the political firmament here. And what did they do? Well, one wrapped himself very firmly in the flag. You can probably imagine who that was. And all four of them frittered away millions or billions of taxpayers' money on populist schemes without explaining how they're going to be financed. But none, not one, mentioned a critical word, surely a critical word if Thailand is to go anywhere. And that word is education. Now, our colleague today, he spent some time talking about education, which I was very, very pleased to see. But my question is, when will people take the long-term view, which is necessary? Vietnam, everybody says Vietnam's doing really well. Why don't we be like Vietnam? Vietnam reformed its education system in the 1980s, 40 years ago. Now they can have semiconductor industries, and so on and so on. But when are we going to take and spend the billions that are spent now, most of which stick to the side? When are the billions going to be properly directed into a proper long-term education scheme, which will hopefully emphasize creativity over conformity, which the present education system seems to be solely involved in? Thank you.
Thank you. Important question on the education. Jan Pavida, you want to ask the final question, and then we can go to the answers.
Thank you for getting the last question. And I have two questions directed to Kun Anon and Kun Burin. I know that Kun Burin want to be less pessimistic, but let's talk about what we need in the economy. We need a lot of reform that is more structural. And we know that it addresses a lot of area where you have to think holistically. But with coalition politics, and we know that this is not going to lead to a landslide one-party system, how do you see the coalition politics playing into the economic reform that we seriously need in order not to be the sick and the forgotten man of Asia? And to Kun Anon, just a simple question. What if the referendum doesn't go in the way that we wish to see, which is people want to start the referendum? What if that is not enough, and what happened after that? Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Pavida. So question on education, question on the economy again, and of course, if the referendum was turned down. Who want to go first?
So I think it's just comment, right? I mean, you didn't really have a question on education, right? I mean, we know that we need to fix the education system in Thailand. We need to be more creative rather than conformity. But I think, it's not like we've been neglecting the education system in Thailand. They get the most amount of money in the from the budget, but it's just not been translated into proper learning. So I mean, I had debate with a lot of friends in various careers, and I said that perhaps with AI and with social media, I think we can transform the learning, but we cannot wait for the state system to transform. I think the key point to reform education is, I think Malcolm Gladwell talked about this. It's not the ratio of teachers to students. It's about whether you get a good teacher to teach a lot of students. I was in university in England. We had one lecturer, 500 students, but he was a great lecturer. So I think that should be the key, because I think they've directed the fund into building schools, having more teachers, perhaps not qualified teachers, but the number of teachers who match the number of students in the area. But I think we need to transform that, have a new thinking, Netflix of education, get the best teacher to go on Netflix, and then have students in any area to have access to this education. And we have a level playing field. Students who go to private schools here and private local schools up north, they have the same teachers. And the teachers that we have could be used as staff to make sure students attend the class or they do the homework. But the actual teaching could be left to these great teachers that we have, the great educators. So I don't know whether that answers your question, but that's a way that we don't need to use a lot of budget, but it's very effective. A lot of our learning is rote learning. I went to I don't know if we have time, but I went to the Museum of Naval History in China, in Guangzhou. That's where the Opium War started. And what you saw was quite clear. On the one side, they had what happened in China, 1500, what happened in Europe. And they kept just saying, it's all about education. The past 400 years in China with Qing dynasty, it's about learning these poems or, rote learning some dead philosophers. Why in the West they had calculus, they learned science, discovery. So they wanted to get that into everyone's head, that education is important, you need a reform. So I think we need some sort of a naval history here, museum here in Thailand, yes. So thank you for your questions. And to Ajahn, I'm not a political analyst, but I'm not really hopeful about Thai politics, how it sticks together. But I'm less pessimistic, because if this new government doesn't deliver on the economy, I think they will lose power very quickly. So I think that will go for every party that will be in power. If they don't get the right man, put the right man on the right job, and they don't get the good technocrats in, we've seen what Phumjai Thai has done in 2 months that they were in power. They got good people in. Before they were just provincial party. Now they seem to be a bit more mainstream, because people care. People actually do care that our ministers are on top of their jobs. And I think that will be the way to go. With the coalition, I think Phumjai Thai even said that they want to get more technocrats in. Even all these other parties, they seem to try to get all these technocrats, professionals to say, oh, if we were to win the election, these will be running all these key ministries. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kunbun. Kunanon, you ready? Or
Well, I mean, the question is quite big, and I think it's bigger than me alone to answer, or even bigger than my friend or people who are in the movement at this time, because this is not the question for like 10 people, 100 or even 1,000. This is question about a million, like 60, 70 million that will be affected by whether the constitution this referendum is passed or not. But for us, as we doing the campaign, this like our director, who supposed to be here, but he was too busy. He said this is like do or die for us, because even right now, even today, there was some complainer who went to file the complaint. I'm not sure with the ศาลปกครองอะไรนะฮะอะไร
Administrative court.
Administrative court or the constitutional court. I'm not sure which place, but to say that this referendum is unconstitutional and it should be postponed or even cancelled. That's already start, as Ajahn Thitinan says, like the monkey business. It's already start already. But again, for us, we give all we can do. Our team did not have a New Year's holiday, actually. We have started work since January the 1st. And we do whatever we can. We talk to many people we can. And we just hope that what we do and what many, many people who are doing on their own expense do will make effect on something, and that's what we are eyes on. Yeah. I'm not sure if that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to give, Jan Prongkwan and Jan Thinan, maybe like a final words, if you have anything to add to any of these things. I mean, the question are quite broad as well, so you can also chip in if you have anything.
Okay, Ajahn Prongkwan can have the last word. I'll just say, the education is, I think most countries feel they have an education problem. In the case of Thailand, after being, I don't know if you probably have been to my university, Chulalongkorn University where I work. We can talk a long time. It's a cliche that we need better education reform. But what we need most of all, an ecosystem that engenders open minds. You come to our university, and by the way, Thammasat is supposed to be the liberal one you go to, but now it's gone the other way. July has some pockets of free thinking that Thammasat used to have. So that tells you a lot. Okay, maybe not true. Yeah, okay. But anyway, there used to be more progressive, out there. The hotbed of liberalism used to be Thammasat. But if you come to university, you see the ecosystem is about hierarchy. It's about tradition. And you look at the curriculum, what we can teach, it's not basic freedoms to think. It's not an ecosystem that you need. So we can talk very long time until that changes. We're not going to see much education reform. In fact, it goes the other way. I want to say, if the referendum doesn't pass, it's very clear. My fellow countrymen, they want the status quo. If Phumjai Thai wins the election, very clear. You don't have to worry about political instability. It will form a government, and that's it. The Constitutional Court will not touch it. The Election Commission will give it a green pass, green certificate, of pass with flying colors. So we will see. I'll be a little bit surprised. A lot surprised actually. Constitution 1997, it was more kind of broad-based, public participation. 07, a bit more manipulated, tweaked, and tampered. Each time, they have a certain outcome in mind, prevent the Thaksin party from winning. So you tweak all these rules to just make sure that it has a hard time. Give the Democrat a better chance. 2017, the ultimate. You can dissolve any party, ban anyone. Right now, you are behaving without morality and ethics. That's it. Morality and ethics in the Constitution. Up to the Constitutional Court to interpret that. So, if the referendum doesn't pass, and I think if that is the case, could be that Phumjai Thai will win the election, and that's it. If Phumjai Thai doesn't win the election, come in second or third, then we could see number 2, number 3 still trying to form a government if People's Party comes out on top. I just want to say about the, what you mentioned about the Constitution, and we've had this kind of systematic efforts. I mean, the whole system has been manipulated and shaped and shaved, and so up to this point, I don't know if people will wake up to it, but yeah, it's very clear why Thailand has diminished, and I think we'll see this Sunday. I'll be very surprised if we see the charter doesn't pass the referendum.
Thank you, Kabajan. Chen Pongkwan, final words.
Okay, so I think I have 2 points. One is about education, I think, because it's very closely related to my own field. I do disagree a little bit that there's no policy on education. I think a lot of parties advocate for pretty much similar policies on education, but very focused on skills building, right? Rather than creating or amending the curriculum, right? So a lot of policies, and because a lot of them actually came to my university to present the idea about education, is to create some sort of like credit bank where that will allow people to just take classes when they want to and save the credits, and if they want to go and work, they can always use this credit to come back and then, you know, equip themselves when they're ready to do so. But I think this idea is answering to the problem that we're trying to upskill people so that they're ready for the job market. So I think this is the same everywhere else. In most countries, we focus more on job search and job market rather than creating the field for, you know, creativity and things like that. And I'm also not really sure how we actually encourage students to be more creative. A lot of them are more, I think, less conforming right now, but we haven't really turned that into something creative yet. But I also would also like to argue that there's also, I mean, we have creative markets, right? We've seen a lot of, you know, creative television, arts, and things like that, right? So we do really have a place for them to express themselves, but it's still probably not creative and liberal in the sense that you would define by the West, right? It probably manifests in different forms. And I think secondly is, and this is me complaining, that we don't have enough educators. And I don't see policies on this yet. University lecturers are not very high paid. We have to teach a lot, which means that reduces our capacity to produce research, which is needed to, you know, develop the countries, to figure out innovation and things like that, right? We're definitely limited in capacity, and I don't see any parties advocating on that. Especially they want, you know, high skills, you know, increasing the skilled laborers and things like that. We haven't really figured out how to do that with research and innovation. And my last point is about protest, right? Because I heard a lot of questions coming, asking about whether people will go out and protest. And I could possibly just answer this from my own interaction with my own students, which, you know, you could assume that they are the generation that would go out and protest, right? They're probably gonna be the generation that vote for liberal parties. My observation is that it's gonna be very hard to see protest like 2020. I think a lot of students are very fatigued of this political instability. They do want to see some changes, but, you know, that change they don't see will come from protests, will come from them going out to vote. And to some certain extent, I think they're very individual focused, right? They want to be, you know, successful fast. And I think, you know, there are a lot of discussion about pressure on Gen Z to be successful very early in their life. And going to protest is not going to make them successful early. So I think that's something that they factor in when they make decisions whether they want to go out. Obviously, so that pressure. Second, you know, the fatigue of seeing a lot of generations going before them and still not successful. And I think lastly is cliche debate, but social media provides a platform for them to release the anger, and most likely it's gonna stop there. So I don't think, and this is my observation from, you know, seeing social media and also asking my students, even if, which I don't fingers crossed. I really want the referendum to pass. But even if it doesn't pass, it might not lead to anything. And sadly to say that. And I just want to stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, on that note, I would like to, on behalf of the FCCT, thanks all the panelists for contributing their thoughts and ideas ahead of this Sunday votes. I think it's well, I'm a reporter, so it's always a critical vote. Doesn't matter where it lies. I think it's still an important juncture for the country. And just quickly before we go, I want to give a quick shout out. We have an honored guest in the club this evening as well. I want to welcome Senator Datuk Nur Yaslan bin Tan Sri Mohammed, the Deputy President of Malaysia's Senate, who's in Thailand to observe our election. So thank you for joining our club. On that note, if you like what you see and not a member yet, please become a member. Good night. Take care.
Thank you.
Lots of questions, but we leave it for another time. The question that I have is the judicial system in Thailand independent